Good afternoon, my Cracker Tugas. It's Joseph Rothschild, aka MBT, and I remembered the password. Eek. So I'm uploading this on the 1st of March, and it's the first long form of 2026, which lets you know how much effort I've put into this channel recently. Listen, I was forthcoming about this in the reaction video that went up when Like a Void got unbanned, but my entire life has changed as a result of having a kid, and one of these two channels is putting bread on the table, and the other is the one you're watching right now. But that said, I have been playing and enjoying Elestrals in the interim, and it does feel like kind of a waste that I don't get to talk about it as often as I would like, so here's a decent excuse. Worlds is happening. If you're unfamiliar, and you can read on screen right now, the World Champions HIP 2026 for Elestrals is happening in just a couple of weeks on March 20th to 22nd. It's going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I will be there commentating. I'm super happy to announce that. I was thinking of playing. I got pretty close in qualifying points and was like, do I need to grind it out? But thankfully, the answer to that was no, because they tapped me to commentate. Anyway, if you are coming, I would be happy to say hi or whatever. If you've qualified for the main event, of course, congratulations. If you haven't, there's still LCQs available. And if you suck at Elestrals, you can still play side events, which are nice. The stuff that's going to be there is going to be epic. I will say Elestrals is incredibly good at making products. I mean, like, look at these full arts. They're so good. And they're stamped for the specific event. I love it. I'm super excited for Worlds. Could not be happier to be casting. But if you have taken a reprieve from Elestrals, then you may not know what people are playing. So I figured I would upload this video to give you some insight into 3 of the decks that I think are most likely to see play at the World Tournament. And hopefully this helps you all get back into the groove of things as you tune in for Worlds in a couple of weeks. So first and foremost, where are we with set releases? Well, Divine Champions Firestorm came out a while back, and since then, another set has released, Divine Champions Lifestream. Now, Lifestream is what I would lovingly call Elestrals' Edison moment. Totally changed the way that games are played. They are now really swingy, combo-oriented, but the decks are competitive against each other, which is really exciting. Firestorm, I think, was kind of the last dying gasp of good stuff, despite the fact that a significant amount of linear strategies emerged from that set. There was still 5s at locals. That is no longer the case at all. I like to think of Lifestream format as 3 different formats. The first is the one that you saw at Kissimmee, where Locagon was totally dominant. People were still playing Bear Bomb. Blizzstrix was around. That Solar list was absolutely everywhere. Then a ban list that, for some reason, unhit Like a Void, precipitated like a 2-week format that was just weird as all hell. And then the reversion of that ban list into the new ban list that we have has precipitated a 3rd format that is quite enjoyable. But if you haven't had your ear to the ground with respect to those ban lists, you might not know what's good. So today I want to walk you through 3 of the top strategies from the Lifestream format that just emerged from the most recent Elestrals webcam premiere. I'll talk you through them, and then you'll be prepared for them when you watch Worlds. Let's begin with this one, Fish. So this is, I think, the most expected deck on the World's stage. As you can see, it is an Aphrodite deck. If you're unfamiliar, Aphrodite can enchant a whole bunch of water to it and then can disenchant a water to search your deck for a card with the same name as a water Elestral on your field and add it to your hand. Now, there's a bunch of cards this works with. A significant amount of cards released in Lifestream benefit having more than 1 copy in rotation, but it also enables you to take a card from one set and search a form from a newer set that has a title. For instance, this one attempts to use Aphrodite, released, I think, in base. You can nexus up to 2 waters, and when you do, draw a card for each water this card receives this way, then use Aphrodite in order to get Aphrodite, Champion of Aphrodite, who can be special cast if you control an Aphrodite. And then when there's 2 Aphrodite on your field, they become base 5, which means they're good attackers and, of course, defend themselves really effectively. That is kind of the core play of this deck, and in so doing, you will overwhelm your opponent in card advantage. You know, slam down an Aphrodite, Aphrodite, draw 2 off the Aphrodite, Aphrodite add, special out the other Aphrodite, go. And that's fantastic because now you can play fast and loose with your back row runes, the Argos, the Gorgon's Gazes, the Shields of Achilles, the Poison Tipped Arrow, because you're going to be ahead on card economy and your opponent isn't. I love this list from Spicy Sausage for a number of reasons. It's also got a Foamy package. When it's destroyed in battle, you can special cast a 1-Spirit Water Elestral, but Foamy Champion of Aphrodite searches Aphrodite or searches a 2-Spirit Water Elestral, which out of the board you can just put in whatever you like. We're also playing Joblin, which is funny as all fuck. And I do want to draw your attention to Pandora's Box, which can be played when an opponent activates an effect that searches for or casts a card from the deck, negates it, and then your opponent sends the top 2 cards from their deck to the underworld. This card was in sideboards forever, but was not in main boards because the effect is a little narrow for the cost. It is now a very consistent main board inclusion. We've just reached that point in Elestrals. Moving on to Solar, I do want to talk pretty extensively about this. I pulled up 2 different builds for this. First one's from Lol Blobfish and represents, I guess, what I would call a more standard build of Solar. So just like at Kissimmee, this deck is aiming to cast Celestleo. It's aiming to use Apollo to manipulate the top of your deck alongside Nebuleos, alongside powerful cards that can remove your opponent's problem Elestrals like Solar Burst, and then culminate into a huge-ass board wipe. This build leans very heavily into Nova Core, which is like the new card that kind of makes everything tick. Can be normal cast for 2 if Temple of the Sun is enchanted, and when it's cast, you can destroy an Elestral. Temple of the Sun is very searchable with a new Glimbat that just gets it out of the deck, and as a result, you always kind of have in your pocket like copies 2, 3, and 4 of Earthquake. Now, this deck was on multiple copies of Solar Burst, but that card is now limited, which has limited this deck's playability, but Solar Burst being in the main board is actually a bit of an oddity. Frequently, people will board it just because of how popular not only this strategy is, but Solar Elestrals in general seem to be. This is playing like a Lumaru to get aggro. It's got Heliolists in here, which beat those Argo decks a lot of the time. The P-Box once again, and then a bunch of standard inclusions. I do want to draw your attention to the board, which includes 3 copies of Dense Fog. Has become a pretty significant mainstay in either the main or the board. It just lines up really well against the top meta strategies. The other direction this build can take is the one that Gwendolyn Gaming played to an even better amount of success at the most recent Elestrals premiere, a sizable Lunar Splash. This is all the result of this card, Pharaohgeist, which is the closest you can get to just saying you win the game in Elestrals, and the newly released Rise from the Shadows, which is Call of the Haunted. Pharaohgeist is so hard to get rid of, and getting rid of it costs you 1,000,000 spirits because it adds a spirit to everything your opponent casts. So if you just bring it back with Rise and then you re-enchant it with a Solar on your turn, your opponent is going to put their head in their hands and cry. It still gets to play Nova Core as a Svelte removal package. Apollo, First Light can manipulate the top of the deck. This is also playing Draco Ray in order to just sort of get all of your spirits from the underworld back into the deck. As you can see, no room even for Ambrosia in here. I do want to point out the side deck, which has a Gambit package and the Solar Burst in the side as a result of just not wanting to commit into a field that will contain a lot of Solar Elestrals. Finally, let's talk about this monstrosity. This is Trishula's list, and I just love it. It's Hermes. Now, Hermes was a somewhat playable deck in previous metagames, but kind of at the local level. Now it is a top-tier meta strategy for sure. This is a toolbox deck that aims to use this card, Hermes, disenchant to Wind to send an Elestral that is Wind to the Underworld, and of course they have a lot of stuff that enables it. Carry On can special cast from the Underworld if sent. Carry Off is sort of a removal spell. I do want to highlight, though, the coolest card in the deck, Spine-Nymph Champion of Hermes, which on cast can search for Hermes, and you can disenchant a Wind from this Spine-Nymph to special send into Spinosect. If you get Hermes and then send Spinosect, you can perform a Nexus up to 2 winds. You Nexus a Wind onto Spine-Nymph and then use its effect to special cast into the other Spinosect, which on cast bounces an Elestral. It's really, really powerful. The other thing this deck is doing now is playing Antitan. Antitan was like a playable strategy previously in this format and just jammed a really small Antitan setup in here. 3 copies of Ardbud. We've got the Cyanectars in here, and then we've got Ardvarum and Titan. So, why not? I really like this deck. Astrabbit is still in here, kind of the last deck holding down the fort on this big boy. Aviolith does incredible work at keeping you in the game by being like a fake ass Ambrosia. And out of the board, you just have all these hilarious options. Trish was playing Hydrake into Twindra into Penterra, which I absolutely loved. Shouts out Falacane as well. So these are kind of what I would describe as the three pillars of the metagame that's evolved post banlist in Lifestream. This fish deck, which is kind of enemy number one. This solar deck, which is incredibly skill testing. A lot of like small synergies that result in a package that is devastating to deal with. And the toolbox deck that is Hermes. Expect to see a lot of all of these cards, and I hope to see you checking out the World stream on March 20th to 22nd. Bye-bye.